if we take a look at another question, a patient developed sweating, epigastric fullness after 20 minutes of having a meal. He has already undergone gastric surgery earlier. These symptoms suggest that he is experiencing. Okay. Patient has undergone gastric surgery, right? And after that he is developing sweating and epigastric fullness 20 minutes after meals. Okay. So what can be the possibility? What can be the possibility of this? Let's see the options here. Late dumping, early dumping, gallstones, or hyperglycemia. Okay. So if we focus in this particular picture, suppose, and let's try to understand that patient has undergone gastric surgery. Okay. If this is the situation, this is normal. What happens in the normal situations? When food comes inside the stomach, it remains inside the stomach for 3 to 4 hours. It is broken down in the stomach into tiny particles, and those tiny bits and pieces reach into the jejunum. Maximum absorption takes place in the jejunum. In normal individuals like all of us right now, when these tiny bits and pieces reach into the jejunum, absorption is taking place, then blood is needed. है ना बेटा, खून चाहिए होता है ना, ये nutrients खून में तो absorb होंगे. Whatever blood is present there, generally that is sufficient to absorb nutrients from these minute particles, right? But after gastric surgery, what is happening? If you have chopped some part of the stomach off, then the stomach has become somewhat like this. The capacity of the stomach has been reduced. Plus, there is no pylorus here. So the food is not going to stay inside the stomach. What will happen after this operation, beta? जैसे खाना खाएगा तो ये खाना सीधा का सीधा जेजुनम में डंप हो जाएगा. So this is what is dumping. Okay. Now when these large particles are coming in the jejunum immediately after meals, what happens? The jejunum has to absorb the nutrients. So the jejunum sends signals to the entire body to send blood towards the jejunum. Huge amount of blood comes towards the jejunum to absorb these nutrients. And when this huge amount of blood comes towards the jejunum, the patient starts feeling epigastric fullness. There is epigastric pain. Because the blood has moved from the peripheries become cold. And these symptoms continue for 30 to 40 minutes. And this is what we call as early dumping or early post-cybal syndrome. Right? Early dumping. This is what is early dumping. So 30-40 minutes tak the food is present here. It is getting absorbed. Right? The nutrients are getting absorbed. Gradually, the load decreases inside the jejunum and the patient becomes normal in 30 to 40 minutes. This is early dumping. Okay. Late dumping. Late dumping is a reactive hypoglycemia. Now what happens in a normal person when these small bits and pieces are coming here? The pancreas is secreting the insulin to deposit the glucose into the cells, right? Since these were tiny particles coming here, the insulin which is secreted normally is sufficient to deposit this glucose into the cells. It is used nicely. But after this operation, what is happening? Since a bulky food came into the jejunum, the stimulus was same to the pancreas. So the pancreas was sending the normal amount of insulin, but actually the patient has not eaten that normal amount of glucose because the capacity of the stomach is small. So here the patient would have taken more glucose in diet. Here the patient has taken less glucose in diet. So ideally the requirement of insulin should have been less. But because of that bulky bolus coming into the jejunum, the pancreas has secreted the normal insulin. Now since the amount required was less, but the secretion is normal. So what is going to happen? The requirement of insulin was this much, but the secretion has been this much. So whatever insulin was required to deposit the glucose, that will be used. And this extra insulin will be there in the patient in the second hour after meals. खाना खाने के दूसरे घंटे में there will be relative more amount of insulin present in the patient's blood. And this more amount of insulin in the patient blood, this insulin would be wanting glucose lao, and patient will develop hypoglycemia. So in the second hour after meals, the patient start developing the hypoglycemic symptoms, the faintness, the tremors, and all this stuff. This is what we call as late dumping. And in these situations, because the patient is having hypoglycemia, we have to give food, we have to give glucose to treat this late dumping. Again the food comes, again there is a signal to the periphery, blood starts coming to the GIT, epigastric fullness, early dumping. Then second hour late dumping. So this will become a vicious cycle. Patient will have early dumping, late dumping, early dumping, late dumping. To minimize this dumping syndrome, we request the patient कि भैया ज़्यादा नहीं खाना है. What you have to do is you have to take small meals क्योंकि you have got a small stomach, right? So small but frequent meals that will help in relieving your symptoms. This is what is dumping syndrome. Now generally the dumping syndromes were not asked in the FMG exams earlier, but last December 2019 you had a question from both early dumping as well as late dumping. इसलिए इसको अच्छे से समझ लेना बेटा, इसमें गलती नहीं करना. The chances of repetition for this early and late dumping are less, but still, since lot of mistakes would have been committed here, so we don't know, they might repeat this early or late dumping one question again, right beta? In your coming mock tests also, you will be getting these questions from early and late dumping, right? Now let's take a look at the question once again. A patient developed sweating, epigastric fullness after 20 minutes of having a meal. He has already undergone gastric surgery. These symptoms suggest 20 minutes sweating, epigastric fullness should be early dumping. So there is no confusion in this. Early dumping is due to high carbohydrate load or high osmotic load in the intestine. Late dumping is due to reactive hypoglycemia. So the correct answer for this question is B for Bombay. Now let's move to another question. Nerves of Letarget are spared in truncal vagotomy, selective vagotomy, highly selective, and entrectomy. Okay, so these are the nerves of Letarget and the nerves of Grassi. Now here in this particular picture, I would like to explain, this is the vagal distribution in the stomach. In this vagal distribution, the fibers of the vagus which are going towards the fundus and supplying the parietal cell, these are the nerves of Grassi. Nerves of Grassi, they are secretory in nature, right, which stimulate the parietal cell to produce the HCl. While those fibers which are going towards the antrum and towards the pylorus, they are mainly motor in nature and they are the nerves of Letarget. So these fibers which are going to the antrum and the pylorus, these are nerves of Letarget, and these which are going towards the fundus, they are nerves of Grassi. Now in the different types of vagotomies, there is a truncal vagotomy, there is a selective vagotomy, and there is a highly selective vagotomy or a parietal cell vagotomy. In case of truncal vagotomy, you are cutting both the nerves of Grassi as well as the nerves of Letarget. In case of selective vagotomy, you are leaving some fibers of nerves of Letarget, but you are also dividing some fibers of nerves of Letarget. Nerves of Grassi are gone, plus nerves of Letarget, some fibers are gone. But when we do a highly selective vagotomy or a parietal cell vagotomy, then we are only destroying the nerves of Grassi. We are not shadowing the nerves of Letarjet. We are not dividing the nerves of Letarjet. So in a highly selective or a parietal cell vagotomy, the nerves of Letarjet are not divided. Let's take a look. Yeah, so out of these given options of truncal, selective, highly selective and enterectomy, the highly selective vagotomy would be the best answer. So the answer for question number 15 is C, Chennai. Now Phytobazor is if we take a look, we all know this is a vegetable matter inside the stomach. This is a single liner question. If we take a look at the picture of the different basorts here, it is very, very clear for us that the first picture what we are seeing there, that is the trichobazor, that is hairs inside the stomach. The second picture what we are seeing at the top, this is a Phytobazor, and this picture what we are seeing here, this is a Lactatobazor, milk and milk products inside the stomach. The trichobazor, the first picture what you're seeing, this is seen in cases of young psychiatric females where these females keep on plucking their hairs and the hairs settle inside the stomach. While phytolactatobazor, they are seen due to gastric stasis. Anything where the stomach motility is reduced either after gastric surgery or prolonged hospital admissions or prolonged immobilization can lead to this phyto and lactatobazor.